Call the session to order. Commissioner Wance.
Yes.
You're the prayer. We just discussed this.
We did? Oh, good morning. I would ask if we just take a moment of self-reflection. Keep everyone in your thoughts and prayers, especially those south of us, not only in Florida, but also in Texas, who are experiencing some incredible woes as a result of weather. So keep all those folks in your thoughts, as well as those in public safety and in our armed forces. Thank you. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with Positively Carol, we're starting with International Shakeout Day. And we'll have Valerie explain to us exactly what that means.
Should I remain standing?
I think at 10, what is it? It's like 10:15
Only if you're
or
willing to
something.
shake.
10:18, we're gonna have the building shake or something.
We didn't actually go for the building shaking this time around, but we can.
Next year, we'll try for that one.
Just thank you for the opportunity to say something about International Shakeout Day. It is today, 10/18. There is a great shakeout earthquake drill that is scheduled around the country for 10:18 a.m., so 10:18 on 10/18. But we really wanted to bring up the point that, while we don't have powerful earthquakes here very often, we did have one that happened near Mineral, Virginia in 2011. We probably all remember where we were and what we were doing during that time.
We were right here in session, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, it's impossible to predict when an earthquake might happen, so we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity today to bring this to your awareness and take an opportunity to learn about what actions you can take to keep yourself safe if an earthquake happens where you live, where you work, or maybe where you travel. Because even though we don't have them very often here, you might travel someplace where there is a lot more earthquake activity. You want to have the steps to take to keep yourself and your family safe at the top of your mind. So we're trying to encourage everybody to take some time today, whether it's at 10:18 in the morning or not. We didn't go for the shaker of the building this year. But we want you to practice drop, cover, and hold on. So just like stop, drop, and roll is the message for Fire Prevention Week that you hear a lot, drop, cover, and hold on is the earthquake one. So you want the drop to the ground. If shaking starts for an earthquake, drop to the ground first. And the idea behind that is, even if you think you can walk someplace safe, the earthquake may knock you off your feet in the meantime. And you want to go ahead and take the opportunity to get to the ground and then crawl to under a sturdy desk or a table, something sturdy, take cover, and then hold on to whatever you're taking hold of for until the shaking stops. So that'll help you to stay safe until the earthquake finishes out. There are other pieces of information with regard to what you might want to do if you're stuck outside. You're not in a building, or you're in a vehicle, or other different situations other than the just typical one at shakeout.org. Anybody can go there and get more information about it. But we just wanted to take the opportunity. We certainly appreciate you giving us the chance to say something about the drill that's going to be going on today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great.
10:18, we're going to stop and hold the desk.
I'm going to hold Commissioner Wance. He seems pretty sturdy.
Okay, anything else for Positively Carol?
I got nothing. Honest to God, I got nothing.
Mr. President, I know it's been already announced, but I wanted to reflect my appreciation for those that made the trip to New York, the work that was done up there with the bond rating agencies that resulted in our AAA rating.
I think we should get high-five.
And should be high-fiving her.
Yeah.
I can't reach that far, I'm sorry. It's
Well, there's a tremendous amount of work people don't realize that goes into all the preparation, all the documentation. And one of the interesting things is watching it over an 8-year period of time. I think when we came into office, we were AAA rated with one of the 3 agencies. Somewhere along the way, it became. No, second one came along mid-year, about 4th or 5th year end. It did. Yep, and then this. It says over the course of time, we do budgets and things like that. And one of the things that we've held to is budgeting over, that 5-year operating plan, keeping money in reserve, looking at our debt structure. And there's always that question about how tight are things, how unpredictable are things. I think this is the best validation that for all the things that hopefully we're accomplishing in terms of citizen services and safety and infrastructure and those kinds of things, that we're doing in a way that makes sense and that has left the county in much stronger financial shape. And to make that point in that very challenging environment, having been up there, credit goes to those that really did a nice job up there as well. So I think it speaks well for our traveling team, our support staff back at home, and the work that's done in the county day in and day out. So it's a huge accomplishment, and will save the county, millions of dollars over the long haul of that rating, especially as interest rates start to rise and things become a little more challenging. So really big deal, really good job.
Yeah, I'll echo that. And I know all of us will, but how intense it is up there, and it is, when you're going in there. Mm-hmm. And financial folks are typically interesting folks to interact with. So you never know how to take the feedback or how they engage and how they don't. So it is tough. But beyond what I say about that, I also want to point out that the previous board, before we took our seats, started this journey for us and set the stage for the decreasing debt and made the hard decisions in the budgets. And I can't speak for you two, but I can tell you when I first came in here in 2014, that first budget was sort of like deer in the headlights for me. It truly was. And I suspect new folks that come in this year in December will have that same feeling. But those things that were set, the base that was made, and the decisions that were made, including ours, in many cases tough decisions, led the way to this. So, and I certainly want to point out that our county administrator, Roberta Wyndham, was instrumental in kind of tweaking the way in which a little bit more than tweaking, the way in which we present up there. We've got a whole new way of doing that with the Doug Howard's now. He's now playing the let's make a deal model with the here it is. That truly assisted as well. So thank you to everybody. I was at the Carroll Community College board meeting last night, and huge round of applause from those folks for that AAA rating too. Mm-hmm. The Alan Schumans of the world, who's the CFO out there, truly know what this means. And that it means a lot to all of our departments, all of our agencies, all of those that we fund. It's good stuff. So thank you to everybody that was involved. So, and I'm not going to go into the photos on the presentation because then I'm going to go on the other side, the dark side of the moon. Not going there.
All right.
Good with that, Howard?
Commissioner Weaver?
Yeah.
Nothing? All right, a couple things. I just want to echo what my fellow commissioners said about the AAA bond ratings. It's about time, borrow a line from Tom Cruise, they can finally handle the truth that we are one of the best counties around, and they finally saw it. That was really good. I also want to talk about the Maryland Wine Festival, which was postponed and it was held last weekend. I was there, Commissioner Wentz, I saw fellow commissioners, Commissioner Weaver. I thought it was a great turnout because it was a different day. Other things were going on. I believe they had over 5,000 or 7,000. I can't remember exactly what I heard, but it was somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was about 6,000 and some counting.
Right. So it was a good turnout on a day where it was postponed and switched and everything else. It was great. It was very, very well, very good event. Also, I want to mention, after I left the Maryland Wine Festival, I went down to Main Street on Westminster and walked up and down for the oyster stroll. Again, that was very well attended. I'm thinking, how many people are in the county that both those things have thousands of people there? Because there really were. And at the same time, the Westminster Fire Department had their open house, which again had a crowd of people there. So a lot of things were going on in a small area on that day, and all of them were very, very well attended. And speaking about things that are very well attended, last night was at the Carroll County Career and Tech Center at their open house. I thought I would get there and just drive up and have I had trouble finding parking. The parking lot was packed. The lot next to it was packed. It was incredible. Had to park on the grass. Luckily, no one blocked me in. I go in there, and every room you go into, there are families there with their kids, and they're walking around and looking at this and that. I mean, I was amazed at how many people were there. I really was. I expected it to be a lot, but I was just like, wow. Look at this.
It is every year for that.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's the first one I've been to, I guess, in prime time. And it was like, I couldn't believe how many cars were in the lot and so forth. So I guess it's another indication of how much that Career and Tech Center is used, and I can't wait. And several people asked me about the expansion. I said, well, we haven't got all the information on it yet. When we get it, we'll proceed with it, but we have to get the information because obviously they do need the expansion. All right.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, one of the reasons that parking was so jammed up last night, Nicholas Sparks was in Westminster as well.
Yeah, they had a sign, 2 people holding signs. If a Career and Tech, you're going to park over here. If you're going for the other one, you're going to park over there. So, yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, so there was 1,500 people. There was not a seat to be had at Westminster High School for that. So kudos to Carroll County Public Library and to, I think it's a Likely Story bookstore in Sykesville.
Oh, yeah, Sykesville. Yeah,
they partnered, and so did Carroll County Public Schools readers or something to bring him in here. So that's a big deal. That dude's he's done a couple movies, and he's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing too. One other quick thing I forgot, and I wanted to point this out. I had the opportunity to attend the groundbreaking ceremony for the Freedom Readiness Center on Friday, which is down at Sykesville Warfield on that property. Heading down 32 towards Howard, as soon as you go past Haight Funeral Home, before you get to the firehouse, it's on the left. You would never know it right now, but you will, because it's going to be a 65,000 square foot building. Wow. And what I didn't know is that they're closing the Ellicott City Armory and the Catonsville Armory, combining those two into the Freedom Readiness Center. So Carroll wins. We win. So
we don't pay property taxes.
yeah. So, but that's just the way it goes. But it's going to be a very impressive facility. It's state of the art. I was incredibly impressed with the whole plans and everything that's going to occur down there. And the adjunct general, Linda Singh, was there, who is a Carroll County native. So it was a good ceremony. I did a lot of saluting. So yeah. Anyway, kudos to all the folks down there, and you'll start to see groundbreaking very soon.
Ms. Weaver?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, then we're going to move on to our first item, is Planning and Zoning Commission letter regarding Freedom Plan, open for discussion.
Mr. President, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. I think by now everybody's seen the letter that came from the Planning and Zoning Commission expressing concerns about the Freedom Plan. And I don't want to get into sort of the vitriol or discussion back and forth too much about the personality side of it, but I think it's important because of the document and the way it's likely to be used in the future that we clarify a couple of things that I just think are being misrepresented. And they're important because later on we want people to understand that we went through a very exhaustive process, that these things were all fully considered and not something that was just haphazardly done at the end of the process. So a couple of points I just wanted to bring out. I asked our county attorney to do a little bit of research just to make sure we get these things on the record. First of all, to paraphrase some of what he provided me, as a general rule, governments have the right to reconsider their actions and rescind actions that have previously been taken before. We have done that in the past as a county government with things like the incinerator and the airport. And it's a right that we absolutely have as a government. And frankly, if we didn't, we could find ourselves in situations where, when circumstances change, that we're stuck with options that don't make sense. So it was not out of the ordinary. I mean, it was not something beyond the scope of what we can do or have done in the past. Just doesn't come up that often because we usually, get things right the first time, I guess. But I think in going back and doing that, it was certainly within our rights. Second thing is that the state of Maryland has really shifted its focus, giving local governments ultimate land use planning authority. It was somewhat recognized in the law that the final decision came to us, but it was sort of an all or nothing deal. But in 2015, with Senate Bill 551, that legislation changed and essentially basically said that it concluded final authority over a comprehensive plan or amendment should rest with the elected legislative body, not the appointed planning commission, which is not directly accountable to the jurisdiction's citizens. And so by that, as opposed to when we passed or earlier things when I was commissioner the first term, like the I think it was the Finksburg Corridor Plan, we basically, other than some minor changes, we had to take it at face value or send it back, accept it or not. The law changed significantly to give us the discretion, and because of the fact that we are the elected bodies and the ones that are responsible to the citizens. In addition to that, I wanted to note also that on October 3rd of 2017, we did remand the plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission, but with specific instructions and a proposed timeline for adoption. So I point these things out to say, first of all, we were well within our scope. Some people may feel like that we took the process off track. I would argue very, very vehemently that we put the process back on track because we always had a clear timeline, a clear process, and an expectation that citizens would be heard. And when those things started not happening, we had an obligation to the citizens to put things back on track. A couple of points I just wanted to make beyond sort of the legalities is we need to move away from this notion, because the law has moved away from this notion, that this is an all or nothing proposition. And in reading and hearing from some of the folks, and even what was in the letter, the idea is somehow that we didn't use the work that was done in 2017, and again didn't use the work that was done in 2018, and that's just simply not the truth. The vast, vast majority of what was comprised that plan, that was in the plan, was work put together by the Planning and Zoning Commission on information that came from the public and their process. I think we tried to express appreciation for that. I think we also went through an extensive process to utilize as much as we could, and actually made a big effort to utilize the land use designations that came about in 18 and some of the things that came along afterwards. So the fact is, we actually used a tremendous amount of the work that was produced by that group. If, however, the implication is that we will take all, or we don't respect the process at all, that is a very dangerous perspective to have. And I'm concerned that that seems to be what came across in that letter. If we don't agree with everything that you came up with, that we disregard you as an organization or a body. Now, we know we have many, many groups that give us information, advice. Sometimes it conflicts with each other. Sometimes we have to use our own judgment, as any elected official does. But when, the idea of, we were taken out of the equation, which was the quote from Mr. Soyson, that's simply not the case. The equation ended with us. It was always going to end with us. And I think the idea that, if we get something and we don't go along with it 100%, because I bet we went along with 90% of it. I don't know what the actual percentage is, but it was very high. We didn't change. I mean, you look at the thousands of words that were in it. I also want to point out that the Planning Commission completed the process twice. In 2017, they completed not only the process of writing the plan, but going out to the public and presented it to us. And that's when we remanded it. But in 2018, they also completed the process of writing the plan and put it out for public comment. Subject to that public comment, they had completed this plan twice through. So clearly, I don't think that was something that was rushed or not considered. The problem was the changes that were coming about were not reflective of the comments being made. That was concerning. This issue of timeline, I just don't know how we could have been more clear. I think we could go back and find 50 or 60 times over the course of 3 years that I asked about the timeline, talked about the timeline. We talked about it the day it was remanded to them. It was never arbitrary. It was never hopeful that we would get it done during that period of time. It was expected that we would get it done during that period of time. And so the bottom line is...
That's your timer.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that was always clear. He'll call back. It's probably the Planning Commission. The issue at the very end of all this process came down to a traffic study, that there was a desire for a traffic study. Well, the traffic study was specifically noted for an intersection for which there's already a designed plan for improvement of that intersection. It's been studied. The idea for a broader planning, a traffic study for the area, first of all, had been suggested in public comment every single time we had public comment over a 2 or 3 year period of time. Only on the 50th or 60th hearing of it, apparently, did it raise to the level of someone wanting to take that and do something with it, which just coincidentally would have put us beyond the timeline that we established. Now, maybe it was all done in good faith, but the fact was there was ample opportunity to decide that this was a concern. People were yelling about this traffic study even as early as 2 years ago. All of a sudden, it came up as something at the very end. And the fact is, as we've seen from what we ended up passing, is that there's no reason why that traffic study couldn't be incorporated into the implementation. We're going to have the best benefit of that information from it, and it didn't need to hold up the plan. The long and short of it is, and we've really tried very hard, so it's unfortunate that really this letter even came, to keep a good relationship with the Planning Commission, to say, listen, we appreciate your work, but there were some problems. And the biggest problem is that the people being represented, or the people that in the area that the plan represented, were not being heard. They just weren't. And so there was never a justification for the growth. There was never an answer, as Commissioner Weaver raised many times, as to how we were going to pay for the infrastructure. It didn't coincide with our budget. This was a process that was taken offline and done in a vacuum that could not have been implemented and did not reflect what the community wanted. I don't know how we could have done anything but to take it back and fix it. And so at the end of the day, I really feel like it's important for people to realize everything in this plan was vetted. Even the hearings that we had the first time around, we got a lot of public comment. By the end, I was confident we were hearing no new public comment because to me that meant we've heard what people had to say. And I think the decisions that were made should stand in good stead because they were made in that way and with that information. Just a couple of last things. I know, in the article that appeared, Mr. Soyson said that there really was no discussion about the timeline before August 23rd. It's just simply not true. So, I mean, the timeline was out there for a long period of time. It also noted that I didn't respond to a request for comment, which technically I did not. I only have a couple weeks left in this job, but if I go on vacation, I'm going to go on vacation for the Carroll County Times as well, not just for the government work that I have, so that's why I didn't respond. Commissioner Weaver, I know you had some concerns, and you can certainly speak to those. I did not think your comments were reflective of the process that we had. I think the process was taken offline, and we had to fix it. I don't think we took anything away from the Planning Commission. I don't think they should be upset about it. So I think that that's something that, as we go forward, we just need to realize that they have a role, the Board of Commissioners have a role, and ultimately, the most important thing is the citizens, the decisions we make reflect the citizens' desire. So I appreciate the time to address it. Certainly anybody can add thoughts. I just don't want for a minute for someone to think later on that there's somehow the process of hearing what the public was looking for, the pros and cons of every single one of those properties, zoning categories, land use designations, things that still have to yet be decided, like the new zoning categories. I don't want them to think there was anything left undiscussed, because to me, I feel like it was an exhaustive discussion over 4 years. And the decisions that we made, good, bad, or otherwise, should be reflective of a process that everybody was heard. So,
I just want to say it's time to move on. It's over. Let's go forward.
Mr. Wyatt, anything?
Yeah, I just, in my comments, certainly for those folks that pay attention to the Carroll County Times, my comments pretty much speak for themselves, but there are two specific areas that I think I need to address in this infamous letter that really upset me. One of them was the process was driven by politics. I don't even know how to address that. That to me is absurd. And to back that up, they noted in their letter that this process undermines the public's faith in government. I would say that if that's their mindset, then they truly have a communication problem, because I think it did just the opposite. We listened, as you said, to the folks down there, made sure that we made decisions based on those folks that actually live down there and work down there. And to say something like undermining the public's faith in government, to me, is extremely upsetting. It really is. I don't know who came up with this language, and I can't imagine that the folks, all of them that sat on the Planning Commission, could have agreed to that type of language. Because if they did, then perhaps they need to rethink about how they listen to the public when they're in their sessions. Those two statements to me, now a lot of the letter, again, I've already said what I said, and I stand by the decision that I made, and I will continue to do that. I have always said in this seat that it's important to listen to those who put you in the seat. And that's what I do with every decision that I make. And I listen to the folks down there. I may not live down there, but oh, by the way, I have somebody who I'm very fond of that works down there every day. So I know what's going on down there. And I think it's all of our responsibility to know whoever's district it is. Be familiar with what's going on. That's why I made the decision that I did, because of the public, and that's why I'm in this seat, period. And that's why I have such bad feelings about a statement like undermining the public's faith in government. Absurd. But I will agree with you, Commissioner Weaver. It's over now. I don't think that the sky's going to fall. Although if you were in Texas, you might think differently, or Florida. I think we're going to move on, and I think the plan, by the way, that was built on a good foundation by the Planning Commission, is a positive plan moving forward. And I thank them again for all of their work, but seriously have a problem with some of the statements that were in this letter. And if it's anger, that's a shame. You should probably back up before you write letters like this and get that anger part of it out of it. So that's all I'm going to say. You're right. We have to move forward now, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
All right. I would just like to say I don't agree with everything that was in the letter, and to be honest with you, I don't agree with everything that was said this morning. However, the Freedom Plan is passed. We're moving forward. Let's put it behind us. I think the results that we got from going back and forth with it were good results. Like I said in the paper, I think most people in the Freedom area agree with what we've done with the Freedom Plan. And after all, that's what the important thing is. So let's move on. Unless there's something else, let's move on to the next item, which is request approval to proceed to public hearing, zoning text amendment reducing required BZA newspaper advertisements from Board of Zoning hearings from 2 to 1. And we have Mr. Burke. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Way back on May 31st, I was in front of the board reminding you that under state law, you're required to give only reasonable public notice of Board of Zoning Appeals hearings. And your zoning ordinance requires 4 items. Number 1, a mailing of notice to all adjoining property owners. Number 2, a posting of the property with notice of the hearing. Number 3, posting of the notice in the county office building, and we've expanded that to use the county's website. And number 4, which is the subject of this morning's appearance, 2 newspaper advertisements in the Carroll County Times that have to run in a certain sequence. That's not required under state law. That's your zoning ordinance. I'm here, at the time, I was suggesting to the board that you eliminate that provision altogether from the zoning ordinance, since it's not required under state law, and continue to give the other 3 methods of notice that I suggested earlier. The board was reluctant at that point to do so, and it was suggested by at least 1 or 2 of the members that they would be satisfied with 1 newspaper advertisement of the hearing. So I'm coming back to you now to ask for, to proceed to public hearing with a zoning ordinance change that would require only one newspaper advertisement for Board of Zoning Appeals hearings. Reluctantly, I'm going to make one last pitch that we eliminate the newspaper advertisement altogether. I think it's up to the board certainly, but I think it's antiquated. I think it's underused. I think it's a waste of money. We spend over $5,000 a year on it. And last, with all due respect to the Carroll County Times, under the new regime down there, they've botched at least 4 newspaper advertisements for Board of Zoning Appeals hearings, some of which required a postponement, which is a lot of inconvenience and a lot of waste of people's time and a lot of aggravation. So I'm here to request that we proceed to public hearing, at least eliminate one newspaper advertisement, if not both.
If we proceed to public hearing, can we also, can we look at both of those things at public hearing? Is that possible? To look at cutting down to 1 or 0 advertisements in the newspaper?
Yes.
I'd like the public, if it's possible, to weigh in on both those things.
Yes, I think the public would be on notice at that point that you're considering amending or altering the current procedure for advertising public hearings for the zoning board, whether 1 or none.
So Tim, if we did that,
Or keep it the same. I mean, if you want to keep it at 2.
if we did that, should we express that in what we send to public hearing, or should it be assumed that if we're hearing from them, we're hearing from them adequately on both ideas? You know what I mean? In other words, should we say what we want to send to public hearing is the consideration to go to 1 or 0 so that we hear from them on both, or can,
We can do that as well if you want, if you're that.
I mean, I think it does merit some consideration, but I think if we don't phrase it in a way that they don't know that there's a choice, they're liable not to give us their opinion either way. Does that make sense?
That's fine. It's just as easy to do it that way, quite frankly.
But I agree. I mean, I think I know we have some reluctance about making sure that, there's good information out there, that no one's unaware of things, but there's also a standard of reasonability where even people get this information anymore. So I think if we hear from them and phrase it in a way that we give those 2 considerations, I think that would be a good. So I'll make a motion that we proceed to public hearing with a zoning text amendment, considering the reduction of required BZA newspaper advertisements from 2 to either 1 or none.
Or the elimination, yes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Give them the choice. It wouldn't be for the fact that I have I have a ton of citizens in my district that don't have access to the internet. I would be in favor of certainly just eliminating it altogether because, in today's world, that's where everybody gets their information for the most part. But because of the fact that we're limited in my district and a lot of those folks still get the paper, and I hear from them about saw in the paper because they can't see it anywhere else up there,
Right.
I would, like to hear from the public.
Okay.
So I think that gives a good option and make it clear that we're either going to do this or this. So.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
And now
you.
we're moving on to a new design for signs to be posted on properties advertising upcoming land use hearings.
Good morning again. This is a similar item. Back on the same day, Commissioner, and with me is Darby Metcalf from the Department of Planning. Back on that same day, Commissioner Howard suggested that the signs that we're currently using now. Thank you, Vanna.
They never sit and do that. Typically, they stand and.
Do you have the sound effect?
It was suggested by Commissioner Howard that the signs that we're currently using for notice of zoning board, TRC, the zoning administrator, planning commission have contained so much verbiage and information that they are virtually unreadable, particularly if you're driving by it
I like that photo.
at any rate of speed. So,
Yeah, call that and see what happens.
as the young people say, it's a TMI on there, too much information.
There you go.
TMI.
So, staff was directed to take a look at these signs and see if we can come up with a better template. And Darby Metcalf, after a couple of staff meetings, undertook that job, and here's what we come up with.
So the zoning administration hearing will stay the white background. The color on the side are examples of the other posters that would have color. And they're just basically duplicates with a different title change. They look very similar, very large, large phone number. There's a website at the bottom that has all the meetings, hearings located at that website link. Anyone can go to. And the purpose of the color coding as well is that someone can drive by and call up the county, oh, I saw a blue sign over on this property, what's going on? And then they go, oh, that's a TRC meeting. And they already know, and they check the hearings. There's also, you can type in the case number, short description of what's going on at the location, so the public knows, but it's not too much. And if they're interested, they can call the number or go to the website.
Yeah.
And the phone numbers are discreet, right?
Yeah, the phone numbers are different, so we have zoning administration has a specific phone number, which department to get in contact with, and as you go through, as you go through to the other ones, the phone numbers are different for each poster.
Where you have the case in the description, is that smaller than the information you had on the other one, or is it like the same size?
Before it would have gone,
I mean, there's a lot on here, so that's way too busy, but I'm just looking at the size.
Roughly the
of
same
that.
size
Yeah,
font.
okay.
Usually it's only a few words per arm anyway.
Right,
Just tell
and
me
we
what it's-
we
Right,
allotted
right.
some space there.
I don't want any smaller, was my point.
Yeah.
No, we're going to eliminate some things like the statutory references or
Right.
the code references and just say, proposed beauty salon or one-chair beauty salon, something like that. And when you want more information, call the phone number or go on the website where it'll have the actual notice of public hearing.
Okay.
We
And
think-
and we don't have to say where the hearing is, because I see we got the address, 225 Center Street there. We don't have it there. That's fine.
That's an idea to add the actual address.
I'm just asking.
It
You
was
know,
a thought,
yeah.
but the other.
I didn't know if we had to or not, or if it's good enough that if people call or have that information. Okay.
I mean, I think it's just important to have a phone number there and folks can call. That's
Yeah.
my take on it, because this came up at planning the other day. There's a proposed facility down there, and somebody said, stopping on Liberty Road to look at our signs, you're going to get killed doing that. So, but this, if you just slow down, at least you get the phone number, you can call for additional information. I think that's the most important part.
Right.
And I think the color coding's excellent. I think that's a huge, I mean, to know
Good idea.
what kind of sign you saw.
Right.
You may want to be a little careful, and this is your bailiwick, not my wig, but the red, that it's truly when you put it out on the sign that you can read it. Sometimes things are, when you put something out somewhere else, just make sure it's a background that can be read. I would also suggest that our folks that answer the main number are given some sort of a cheat sheet, if you will. So if they just call the main county number and say, I'm calling about a red, yellow, blue, then they can get directed to the right phone number as well.
good idea.
Because I think if you're going to go this far, it ought to be as seamless as possible. But I think that's a huge improvement. I really do. You couldn't ride by and not have a sense of what was going on. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we think they get your attention. We think they give you at least a brief summary of what you're looking at and tells you where to go, most importantly.
Yeah.
To get the full information.
Much improved.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Great.
I mean,
So when will those go into effect?
As soon as possible.
Excellent.
Have to use up all the old ones first.
Attorney Burke, I appreciate your specificity. Yeah, that's great.
even if you just write Dinosaur Park on there, you'll know now. You know to call that number.
Yes, that's what I'm going to write on all of them.
Thank you, Darby.
Great.
you.
Appreciate it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
wait, don't we need a motion here?
Oh, do we need a motion to?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yes.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the new template for hearing signs based on what was presented.
There you go.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Okay, next we move on to, if I'm right. Request approval to accept eviction assistance, Ms. Christine Kay and Scott Yard.
Morning.
Good morning.
So every year, the Maryland Department of Human Services offers funding to support homeless prevention programs throughout the state, and we contract with HSP to run an eviction assistance program. We're seeking approval for you to accept the FY19 Eviction Assistance Program grant award in the amount of $8,972. And Scott could talk a little bit about how many people we've served over the last year with this funding.
So this funding it's a funding that we use in tandem with several other community funds that we leverage together. Last year with this particular fund, we assisted 35 households with eviction prevention. So really what this does is funds like this allow us to divert people from entering into the shelters. So with eviction prevention funding, we also offer resource referrals. We do needs assessments and look at other areas of need to then get people out of this potential homeless situation and then back into the good graces with their landlord so that they can avoid any potential homelessness.
I just think you should change the name of it. It says eviction assistance. To me, it's like you're helping the people get thrown out.
Yeah,
It's just the name is like.
They change it like each year. It feels like the state kind of throws a different.
Oh yeah, not our name.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you don't have any. Okay.
Well, and I think they use eviction because they have to present an eviction notice in order to qualify for funding. So you have to have something from the landlord saying
and this is only due to non-payment of rent evictions.
It would be in order for us to provide eviction assistance. We actually we need a court ordered eviction letter. So that when someone comes to us, they would have a court-ordered letter, and that's part of the regulation for the program. So that's what we implement for other services. So typically, what happens is someone gets oftentimes we'll mediate with the landlords as well. Landlords will call us and say, "Hey, I've got this person. I can tell they're struggling, but we've got to do something." We'll say, "Well, we can't help without a formal eviction letter." And then that's also how we can access various churches. We have about 17 different churches that we leverage with those funds to avoid eviction, but it all starts with a formal court-ordered letter.
Okay.
All right, I'll move that we accept the FY19 Eviction Assistance Program grant.
Second. Don't like the name, but second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, now we're going to have a new marketing video by Economic Development, Mr. Jack Lyburn.
Morning.
Good morning.
Were you the guy on? You look familiar. Were you the guy on the paper with the?
Our Brian's we're gonna show it to you in a minute. Our market, we very rarely deal with a company. We deal with site locators throughout the United States. So what we decided to do, and Brian led the charge on this one, is to do a video that we would send out to site locators, and we working with Commerce. We have about 105 throughout the United States. We're seeing companies, site locators on the West Coast that are bringing companies to the East Coast. So we want to make sure we're there. So we have a little marketing program. We want to show you, this is an 8-minute video.
Okay, you've got 5 minutes, go.
We don't have any popcorn or anything, I'm sorry.
Carroll County, Maryland, a mid-Atlantic gem, which is business-friendly, family-oriented, and uniquely scenic. Conveniently located near major transportation corridors and the Port of Baltimore, Carroll County's prime location offers easy access to East Coast cities, major airports, and Baltimore's inner harbor. Come explore our hidden potential. Strategic investments in commercial and industrial properties, the Carroll County Regional Airport, local watersheds, historic towns, and the Carroll Broadband Fiber Optic Network are key factors in creating a vibrant business environment. With high rankings in education, safety, health, household income, and worker productivity, now is the right place and the right time in Carroll County, Maryland.
One of the reasons why we moved to Tawnytown was the workforce, in terms of the ability to work with their hands, their work ethic, the hard-working attitude they have.
We hire on aptitude and attitude. So aptitude is really the ability to learn, and then attitude is really even more important as we're building a culture in manufacturing of teamwork.
I found that the people that are in Carroll County they're hardworking, they're eager to learn, and they're very loyal and very dedicated.
We have found availability of people in this area to be very good. The quality of the workforce very good.
We're able to get employees that are motivated, dedicated, still have work ethics. We're able to attract that in this community of people who want to be part of a team, want to come to work and be happy every day.
I live in Carroll County. I moved here in 1992. I selected the area because of the close proximity to Baltimore and Washington and major airports, but also because of the quality of life that was available.
My business partner and I chose to stay in Carroll County because the quality of life here is outstanding, and it's actually helped us from a recruiting perspective, being a local technology company to Carroll County.
So as an international company, being able to travel is important. We have access to 3 major international airports, train stations, so getting in and out of Carroll County is quite convenient.
It's just a great central location on the East Coast that is not too big. Traffic is manageable in our area, but you have ease of access to a lot of different things.
Carroll County offers us, kind of peace, kind of a family atmosphere, and then, school system, and my sons were growing up, were the best.
Would recommend the school systems here. I think they're strong. I think they attract employees here as well.
This is a fairly rural area, so it's not uncommon to be driving through country roads with beautiful vistas.
Cute little main streets, surrounded by lots of shopping, and then lots of farms and fields, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I've been part of 3 of those expansions, and each time it's been fantastic. Really, the first call we do is we make it to the Economic Development Office.
The collaboration and the cooperation that we had with permitting review, with the planning department here in Carroll County, it really helped lay out a roadmap for what we had to do. The permitting process went so well, our overall project came in millions, tens of millions of dollars under budget.
We recently constructed a 160,000 square foot manufacturing facility in what we call Evapco Speed, which means decisions made and a very short time window is allocated for the construction.
There's been introductions into business leaders, networking events, things that have really helped us take what we've done very well, which is build a unique capability and expand it into different areas.
7 years ago, we were looking to expand. We won a big contract with Washington Metro, and we couldn't physically build all of the equipment we needed to. But the company made the decision to make an investment. We invested $30 million in our factory. Working with the Economic Development Group, they really helped make it a smooth transition.
We had some residents that started talking to us and saying, hey, would it be possible maybe to use your tower to provide high-speed internet access to the rural community? And the Economic Development Department here caught hold of this, and the community members were able to use this big, tall tower.
So the broadband has accomplished several things. One is it's very, very cost-effective for us. It also improves the efficiency of our operation, and it's reliable. So it's a major part of our business.
Carroll Broadband has really been a strategic advantage for Strauss. 3 years ago, we took advantage of it, and we went from speed of cable to 3-4 times faster and at the same cost. So this was particularly important for us because we power all of our manufacturing equipment through technology and computers, as well as what we do to manage our business.
With the Carroll Community College, we built a program for our leadership team to teach them the fundamentals of managing and leadership and coaching. So we worked with the college and we invented the program.
We partnered with the community college, and we had a new job that was being built with the new quarry. We had I think it was a 5-week training period where at nighttime our employees would go get the special welding training and certification.
We're currently working with the trainers there, developing a program for our frontline shop supervisors.
Carroll Community College has been a great partner for us. We've used their services ranging from CPR classes all the way up to supervisory leadership training.
As a partnership, they understand that if they can help us, we can help them, and us giving them guidance on where we want to go. And businesses like us, I think it helps them develop these programs to mentor people into leadership roles. I just think it's such a great opportunity for anyone that's looking to expand their education opportunity.
I look at Carroll County economic development relationship with our company as we are partners. Okay, even though financially we are not partners, but we are partners. So I have had no problem picking telephone and call anyone in economic development, and they have been very, very positive, responding, my needs.
Everyone that we've worked with has been extremely professional and very willing to go above and beyond, which a lot of times in government agencies you don't necessarily see that.
It's a difference of calling somebody and immediately understanding or getting a sense of engagement. They were very proactive. They asked the right questions to understand what our business needs were.
In short, we look at the talented people within the Economic Development Office as partners for our company.
They're a part of your team when you want to either come here and build a business or expand. You just call them up and they're an adjunct member of your team.
I cannot imagine a better place to do business in, and also to bring up a family in. And that, in my mind, is what makes Carroll County truly unique.
Call us today at 410-386-2070 to explore your growth options in Carroll County, Maryland. Search carrollbiz.org for select properties, local financing, incentive packages, and our dedicated workforce programs. Carroll County, Maryland is the right place, and now is the right time for you to join us.
Outstanding. That's excellent.
Well,
tremendous.
That's
we,
really
as you can see, it's manufacturing, and we can tweak this a little bit, but we're going after the manufacturing markets. And what we're going to do, we're sending a letter out, and we'll give you a copy along with the stick, and it's also going to be on YouTube to these 105 site locators. But we're also going to pick the major ones that we deal with, the ones in New York, and we're going to have lunch with them. We're going to go Skype it. We're going to go over to college. We're going to serve them lunch, and we're going to ask them to bring their staff, and we're going to send them the 4 or 5 parks that we're interested in. So we're probably going to do about a dozen or so lunches. We have a couple out on the West Coast in Salt Lake City, Carter Burgess down in Dallas, and we have some in New Jersey. So we're going to have lunch with probably 12 of the big site locators that we do business. And we're going to put that together, and we're kind of really excited about it. I'll give you a copy of the letter that we're sending in the stick if it.
Yeah.
These are live, so you can watch the same video, and Brian can make as many copies as you want. Our computer team is here. This
That's
is the letter that
fantastic.
will go out. Oops, sorry.
This is excellent. Really, really good.
And we'll probably be ready in a week, next week probably. Brian's
Hopefully. I just received the gross of the sticks, the flash drives that I'll need to copy the video onto, so that's going to take a bit of time since we don't have a duplicating a mass duplicating device, so we'll have to do them one at a time, up to the 60 or 80 that we need to mail.
And then we'll do the local brokers. We'll physically go to the local brokers' houses down in Baltimore and Columbia, and the ones that we deal with, we'll physically go and take them lunch and do the presentation to them. We want to talk about the 4 or 5 parks. We'll have pictures of the park, and Warfield is right there.
That's awesome.
So it's the first time we've done something like this. It was a team. Brian had the team, but it was a team effort, our whole department. So I hope you're pleased with it. And we are. We'll let you know the success. I mean, everybody's out there. The one thing that site locators, and we didn't put in numbers because, of course, site locators have better numbers than we have, but they don't have the testimonials. And that was the one thing was missing, they said. So we've been working with a couple site locators, and they said, this is what they want, this is what they need.
I'm just surprised you didn't have the president of the board of commissioners speaking in there somewhere, and it's the only shortcoming I saw, but other than that, it was really good.
Makes it so excellent.
business here.
Yeah, that would have
Absolutely makes it. That's why
would
it's
have been a
top
big
notch
improvement.
as it is.
Yeah. Jack, are you also you sharing this with Department of Commerce and those folks? Are going to show
Yes.
them what we've done? Yeah.
Yes, we are.
I think that's
Yep.
great.
We're going down. They have a meeting once a month, like brings everybody in, and we're going to go down and show this. And it gets, and also there's a conference.
Meet a conference.
There's a meet a conference on Monday at Rocky Gap, and it's site locators, and we're taking the sticks up there. So conference will be there then. But we're going to do a presentation down at Commerce.
You know, one other thing that we we belong to the BWI partnership too. We've talked about maybe at some point sponsoring one of their breakfasts or something, showing something like that. I mean, other organizations do that. I think it's very, very well done. That's a great group of folks with a lot of outreach as well. Might be something else for the board to consider as a means of just showing this again regionally.
We'll get together and do that.
Yeah,
right.
That'd be excellent.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you, Jack. Great job.
Very nice. Very nice.
I get one free breakfast after I leave, John.
Going to move on to request for approval of electronic sign to Carroll County Farm Museum. We have
The sign is out in
Jack
front
is
of you. Most over here at the wine festival, so you saw the sign out there. We've been working. We put a proposal out with Mike in purchasing, and we got back a couple proposals. We picked who we want to use. We have money in the budget to do this with Ted, and we've been working with Roberto on this. But we want to do electronic sign out in the front. The cost is $50,000. We do have it in the budget, but we need the approval for you to do it.
How big is the sign?
We'll let the.
It's basically the size of the sign that we have out there now. It's just a little bit taller. And the panel that you replace the letters, sort of the old style where we have to send somebody out, that'll be replaced with an electric panel on each side that'll show the same thing on each side, but we can show multiple events. If we close because of weather, we can put that up on the sign. I literally can do it off my phone, or Diana can do it off hers at home to fix things. So that's kind of helpful if we have a storm blow in on a Saturday night and we need to close Sunday. It also allows us to do multiple events at once, which that's the big marketing push. The boards behind it, I know you've seen them at churches. It seems like every church in the county has one now. A lot of the schools have them. It's basically a marketing tool.
The health department has it right there on.
Is it a hospital?
Yes.
Right down the road.
They have. I mean, it's basically, it's a marketing tool. The one at Wance Chevrolet, everybody looks at in town. We've actually advertised.
That's not the sign, it's the name.
Yeah. We've advertised museum events on some of these signs across the county, but it is more helpful for us because our schedule is so busy that it's hard to tie up the sign just for one thing.
Sure. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I'll move the Board of County Commissioners approve the purchase of an electronic sign for the Carroll County Farm Museum.
Second.
Motion and a second.
2 seconds.
And a third. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Commissioners, thank you.
That was a tough sell on that one, wasn't it? All right, going to move on to FY19 Transportation Operating and Capital Awards, Carroll Transit System, Jeff Castaway, Debbie Sanford, and Stacy.
I decided to fit you in my schedule.
Thanks for joining us, Stacy.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. Just as we have to do every year with our transportation plan, we're here today to get approval of the grants for the annual transportation plan for both it's Trailblazer and our demand response. And it's just kind of the formality we have to go through each year just to get the final approval. We're already into FY19 budget. Just a little background again, we have right now about 157,000 passengers in 2018 rode our system. So far this year, even up to date, we're seeing about a 4,000 passenger increase with the new Manchester Hampstead Trail routes, plus also adding in the Burke transfer station. And what we're seeing is we saw a 16% increase this past year, just in the last month alone, in the Westminster routes, 16% increase in South Carroll, 4% in Eldersburg. We saw a 21% decrease in Taneytown. We don't know what happened last month, if there was just some businesses shut down or just some changes. But again, with 434 riders or 35 riders in that area, it's about it's a decrease of 21%. So we don't know if that's just an anomaly or what, but again, all in all, we're up about 4,200 riders, about 44% up on our Trailblazer system. We saw about 2,000 of the riders leave the demand response. We believe a lot of them went over to the Trailblazer with the addition of those routes. So it's helping the system. But as we come through every year right now is, we have a ridership. Trailblazer was up 13.9%. For an average fare of about $1.47 per rider. And for our demand response, we have about 89% of our riders that ride the system, are basically for demand, or the demand response, which then is people with disabilities, elderly, or just trying to get to and from different doctor's appointments or other appointments that they have in the area. And the average ridership is about $3.98 per ride, is what we get in fares. So what we're looking for right now is for the approval of we get grant funding from MTA and FTA to help reimburse our system, and we get grant funds of $789,171. We have a county match of $1,148,298, and our estimated vendor revenue is about $680,250 for a total of $2,617,719. With our system, we're also including in our budget for this year. It's been approved in our MTA FTA approval, is for 3 replacement buses and our preventative maintenance of our bus system. We did ask for marketing and replacement of additional buses and tablets. We did not get that additional funding. We also looked for just additional, for those additionals, but again, they didn't. With funding being pretty flat throughout the state and everywhere else, across the state, we're limited to 3 replacement buses this year, so we continue to ask for year after year.
The operating funds, are they at the same level they've been at from the state? Is that number the same, or is it adjusted at all?
We got a little teeny bump last year. It was like $4,000 in state funding, went up just a tad, and we're back down to the level that we had the 3 previous years. So I think it was an anomaly last year.
Someone carried the wrong numbers.
Somebody gave us the wrong
that's
amount.
Good.
But we drew it all down and we spent it, and now we're back to where we had been the 3 previous years.
And over that period of time, what is our overall ridership? I mean, is it up? First of all, I think it's great to see the shift. I mean, that's something we've been talking about not only the whole time I've been here as commissioner, but even when I was back as one of the world's greatest transit directors, really, but objectively speaking. But I know that's something that we've really had as a priority for a long period of time. And if it's really starting to move the needle, that's a big deal, because we know the fixed routes are a lot more cost effective to run. Obviously their costs are fixed for the most part. But do we know overall system wide where things are, or?
I mean, again, adding Hampstead, Manchester, and we only have a month of that service in place. Also with the the additional route in Westminster that now reduces the turnaround time, that the time that everybody's waiting to get on the bus. We've made some major strides toward people wanting to use that Trailblazer system.
Yeah.
So we're seeing, just in 1 month, seeing that 44% increase in just the Trailblazer ridership was large. Now, we did have a couple weeks of free ridership that we provided as we changed the routes, and citizens were, like that. But obviously, we can't, we're close to free as it is, but for what we pay for it. But it's, we sit back. We hope that we continue to see different riders and people moving over. It's fitting their schedules more now, and the advertisement continues to go out the best that we can. Again, without getting that marketing money, we're kind of strapped to sit back and try to do whatever we can within the budget itself.
So that's good. I think one thing that might be worth looking at though is over a multi-year period of time where those numbers have gone. Carroll County had kind of a reputation of being transportation averse. I don't think we were, MTA knew we were kind of kicking and screaming a lot of times in terms of doing things. We've made a lot of improvements in the system. I think there's been a lot of headway there, and also we're investing much more heavily than we were. One of the things that we continually discuss with education is how our percentage of what's going on in the community is a bigger and bigger percentage countywide as opposed to the state. I'd like, maybe as a parting thought, as we start having these discussions about next year, we need to make the case that, the system's on the rise, the system's performing well, and that, we've increased our amount of investment in this. And I think we need to make sure that when we have, it's not the biggest burning issue, but when we have this discussion with, the delegation, I'm not sure that's on the radar for them either. I know we have a number of folks from Carroll County that work in MTA. I think it's a discussion we ought to be having because our needs are going to go up. And if we're starting to see movement, we could accelerate that with the right resources, which really allow us to put a good system on the street without a rise in costs. And Stacey, I will say that I know that implementation of the shuttle system was not without its challenges, and I know you were very instrumental in putting that effort together with another person that I'm fairly close to. But that notwithstanding, I just want to express appreciation for the tremendous amount of work. When we see these numbers shift and we see the capacity grow, it's because of some of that extraordinary effort to make the system work. And we knew you worked hard on it. So.
Well, thank you. It didn't have nearly as many challenges as I expected it to. So
that's good.
That was a good thing.
That's a good day in government, right?
It is, yeah. And to answer your question about yearly ridership, it has increased. I don't have the numbers with me, but I have been running them for another project that I'm slowly working on. So they are increasing year after year, which is definitely a good thing.
Good.
And Stacey and I have talked, and we have talked about strategizing about what we can ask for the state for an increase this year in operating and justify that. Now that because the last operating increase that we got for transit was to implement those changes. Now we've done it. So now we can put forward another project that we would like to have funded.
Well, and keep in mind too, we have our transportation tour, in about a month or so, a couple weeks?
Middle of November.
And transit's not usually one of the things we spend a lot of time talking on, but if there's some seeds that we need to plant or some information that we can start that discussion, I would say, anything you can provide, it's good to kind of have that start germinating in their thoughts as well.
Right, and we're working on our 5-year development plan right now. With a lot of different innovative ideas, and really, finally getting those new routes in place is really going to give us, it's the first really major change we've seen in our system in multiple years now here in Carroll County. Yeah. And to see these changes and see what immediately we're seeing right off the bat with those changes will help us it helps pave the road to for the future, what we're looking at here of how we approach some of these changes. And where we really want to put a lot of our efforts with the system in order to, the system's always going to cost you money. But with that being said, we want to provide a good experience for the riders. We want to be sure we're getting everybody where they need to be. and we want the buses to be as full as possible as that bus is going from one place to another. 1 or 2 people on a bus is not the way we want to run the system, and I think we're seeing that now, even with this change in the addition of these routes and how we're using the Burke right now, and great help with economic development and the staff over at Burke to utilize that location. And again, Stacy was instrumental in pulling that together. And I can't go without echoing Commissioner what the compliments to Stacy. She walked over there every time the Trailblazers on the first couple weeks. She was there almost every time the Trailblazers showed up, and talked to citizens and talked to the drivers and talking with everybody just to make sure everything's running smooth, and still continues to go out in the system to make sure that the signs are in the right place, et cetera.
We're still working on that.
Yeah, still working. It's always a work in progress. But again, she dove into this with no transit experience and sat back and takes this program to heart. And if there's a way to make it better, or if there's a way to sit back and relook at this, Stacy's ripping it apart and trying to figure out and rip it apart, put it back together, rip it apart, put it back together. She's going to find the combination.
She said the key was to keep you out of it. I don't know if that's true or not.
It doesn't hurt.
She did say
it doesn't hurt. Yeah.
One question.
Yes.
You said it's like $1.47 average for a Trailblazer ride. If you go to Baltimore, what does a bus cost to ride? Anybody know? Or any other jurisdiction?
I try to stay out of Baltimore.
I don't know. I was just...
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean, it's some of their passes. I mean, I know... there's some systems that I was in a conference, and they have a tram that goes back and forth just in downtown, which is free, and then your buses can run $2 or $3 per day, depending on what your per trip what your ridership is. So we're not probably that far off cost wise. The problem is that we have our geography of Carroll County. There's a lot of miles in between town to city to where everybody's trying to get to, and that does increase. That's why the cost per mile is always higher for us.
I don't want to put you on the spot. I just want to. How do we compare? I have no clue. And,
I'm sure I can look it up though.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And a lot of the revenue, when we talk about the fares and the money coming in, a lot of that's also reimbursed by the big three. You're talking ARC, Target, Change. So those fares are taken care of by reimbursements by those organizations. We also have Citizen Services has a lot, hands out a lot of the ridership fares, and they get reimbursements, and they reimburse a lot of riders to help them get to and from programs. So when we're talking the fare cost, again, that a lot of it's being reimbursed by other agencies. So that does, while it's revenue coming in, it is at least accounted for revenue, but it may not be cash in hand.
And how is the hub working out across the street? Are people going from one bus to another? Are they transferring?
Yeah, I think it's working out
well.
rather well. It's definitely easier to understand for the riders. And
good.
I mean, the first week I was over there as much as I could be, and there was definitely people getting off buses and getting on other buses, and I was super excited.
Good, that's really good.
And the good thing is too is that they're utilizing the facility. It's more people can get some foot traffic over at the Burke. Whoever can needs to utilize the Burke, so that was a plus for them. And the other thing that we're seeing too is again it's that reduction of wait time to get from one place to another. Again, we're seeing that's made a large change.
Some of the additional buses that you had asked for but you didn't get, were they for to stand up additional routes, or they just for more buses on the routes that we have right now?
They were replacement buses.
But my hope is that we're going to be asking for more buses for stand up additional routes and additional buses on the routes we have right now to reduce wait time as well.
Well, we're hoping that we get good data out of putting these new routes out, and then we'll have the support to request those additional routes, because we'll be able to show that we need them.
What is and I hate to even ask this question because it always raises my blood pressure, but what is the status of the TDP? Because that should be articulating where our next route should be. Yeah. We funded that like 2 years ago, didn't we?
We just started the TDP.
Okay.
We just had our first meeting with KFH, who is the vendor, about a month, 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I know that I just ran into our MTA representative downstairs, and She just sent it off to get the go ahead from MTA, so we should be actually moving forward.
Right. They finished up a couple other counties, and as soon as they finished up that, I think they were in Hartford County last, and as soon as they finished, they came right over, the next day they were on our doorstep, and we sat back and we pulled a team together in record time and said, go, fast.
Well, one of the things, and KFH is a good organization, but sometimes this stuff gets a little boilerplate when they go from jurisdiction, not just them, but anybody that goes from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. We're paying a lot for this, and it's kind of a critical time for us. So I think we need to make sure we put the appropriate level of demand on this process, not just to be a process we go through to check the box, because the last 2 TDPs didn't really yield us much in the way of implementable things, which is why some of those routes have been lagging, and might even be something. I know we've done this before, where we've brought consultants in here, established a rapport is probably a nice way to say it, and got them to understand that we were going to have some input. Certainly that would be for probably the next board. But if we're going to spend this money and get it right, because Commissioner Frazier, I think you're exactly right, knowing where those next routes are, especially as we start to have statistics coming out of these, that we can make these things successfully transition, says we ought to be marching down that path, and they ought to, because we're not going to do the plan again for 5 years. They ought to have a couple of different phases of doing this, and that ought to also help drive some of the discussion about funding. But I think if they just sort of take us as static without recognizing the growth, without recognizing the investment, the shift of things going on, it'd be easy to gloss over the fact this is an opportunity for us to fundamentally improve transportation in the county.
Get it right, really right.
Yeah.
Well, Commissioner Frazier, you sit on the Transportation Advisory
Right.
Council, right? And so they're part of that.
They are, yes.
So
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and I think it's important, for the board to have their input on the process.
Right. We have many agencies, we have many departments sitting in on this. It's not just DPW, in between management, budget, planning. We're getting we're trying to get as many of the different agencies and departments together to work on this. This isn't just, we're not going to work within a small silo. And if there's any other suggestions too by the board, again, if we don't have a large enough conference room, we'll borrow your space here.
Yeah, and I would say rec and parks, any of these venues for different activities, like Piney Run and those kinds of places, but also some of the privately held ones, and also just the business community in general. If people realize that they are part of the destination, they can help us promote the fact that people can get there. Will also alleviate some of the challenges we have with parking downtown and different things like that. It's like anything else, as we continue to grow. But I think, some people, God love them, I think it was Sykesville asked us where they were unaware that we had a shuttle that went by there, and the town hall was one of the bus stops, so that was concerning. But
we run in that same thing, and I think we've experienced that when we're meeting with Westminster City Council. We see that more often, and again, that's why we keep trying to put this marketing money in there. Really, what we and we're seeing this with just our education of everything with roads, with salt maintenance, and for road maintenance. We're going to see this with the transit system. We need to get out there more. We need to find out that the new way and different way to be out there and educating, let people know that we're there. And again, because our county, the rural makeup, everybody drives everywhere. Everybody has multiple cars in their driveway, and there's so people drive where they need to go. But if they understand that the system's there, we need to educate them that that system is available to help them get around the different areas, and they could ride our system. And for the few dollars they can get on and ride, I think it'll be beneficial, help people get to college, get to their jobs. We have some great businesses. You saw from economic development of these large corporations that are between Tawnytown and Westminster, Hampstead. Do we, and that's part of one of the things that we're looking at is, do we change some of the hours of some of our system to become part of a shuttle, at least a shuttle bus to get people to and from their work at certain times of the day without it having to be at 4 o'clock in the morning. In order to get them there on time. So those are other things that we're looking at as part of this program. Because again, we do want to increase that ridership and maximize and help people get where they need to go.
All right. Any other questions? Guess we need a motion or something.
I'll move we accept the FY19 annual transportation plan awards.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain.
3 and 1 abstention. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to request approval for use of term contract for a culvert replacement. We have Jeff Castaway and Doug Brown.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Also with me today, Jim Cook is at training here in the county building, so that's great. Thank you for allowing us to have that. And so brought along Eric Silverman from Rhodes for any specific questions. We're here before you today to request your concurrence to replace a pipe culvert that conveys part of an unnamed tributary of Big Pipe Creek under Keysville-Bruceville Road. This is between the address points of 1755 and 1800 Keysville-Bruceville, and it has, just so you know, failed 4 times in the last 1.5 years, where we've had to actually go in and temporarily, make temporary repairs to this section of road because the culvert underneath is in this condition. We have obtained the necessary permits from the Maryland Department of the Environment. We intend to keep the location open to through traffic during our work activity, and the estimated time to complete our work activity is 20 working days, so long as the weather cooperates. We did put this out to bid with our term contractors, and the lowest quote received was from Stanballs Inc. in the amount of $52,265. And we today are before you requesting your permission to move forward with this process.
Mr. President, I'll move that we authorize the Department of Public Works to utilize the term contract with Stanballs Inc. for the Keysville-Bruceville Road culvert replacement project.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to accept FY 2019 Royal Legacy Grant Agreement for Little Pipe Creek, Royal Legacy Area, and Upper Patapsco, Royal Legacy Area. We have Deb Bauer, C.P. Smith. I don't see Mr. Bilvis.
Morning, Commissioners.
Oh, he's back there, okay. Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're here before you today to ask for acceptance of a Department of Natural Resources grant totaling $1.77 million to fund preservation in our Little Pipe Creek and Upper Patapsco Rural Legacy areas.
All right. I move we accept the fiscal year 2019 Rural Legacy Grant Agreement for the Little Pipe Creek Rural Legacy Area and the Upper Patapsco Rural Legacy Area, and authorize County Administrator to sign the agreement on the Commissioner's behalf.
Really?
Yes.
Do we have
you
a
get to sign it. Second.
motion and a second? Any further discussion? Go ahead.
That whole area, just give us, or the public, a general idea where that area is.
The 2 rural legacy areas. Upper Patapsco takes in almost the entire northeast corner of the county, and Little Pipe Creek snakes around from the very top Pennsylvania line in a crescent shape around the western side of the county and all the way down almost to Taylorsville.
Taylorsville.
Okay. So it encompasses a pretty large area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I also ask, this is the largest award we've ever received?
Well, it's the largest that we've received since I've been here. It's 7 years. So back in the old days, we did get a $2 million grant. So.
Excellent.
What was last year's? Of 21 or 22 grants announced last month, ours was the 6th highest. So
wow.
We're doing fairly well.
Last year's was just over 900,000.
Great.
Wow.
That's good.
Good.
That's good. Any other questions?
Motion, so.
You've already had motion second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Glad you said that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioners. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to request approval to accept the grant award for FY 2019 VAWA Carroll County Sheriff's Office. Doug Abbott and Karen Jacoda. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioners, on August 23rd of this year, you approved the grant application for the Sheriff's Office to the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention in the amount of $20,000 for a position. We put in the application, it was fully funded in the amount of $20,000. If you have any questions about the program, Doug is here to answer them.
Anybody have any questions?
No. So we got the full amount, which is good, right, Doug? I mean, it's what we expected.
Correct.
So the county match is 15.5, right? Or is it 28.6?
Yeah, it's 28,645.
Okay. Oh, that's for I get it. Salary and benefits. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
All right. Mr. President, I'll move that we accept the fiscal year 2019 Violence Against Women's Act Grant Award.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to request approval to accept a grant award for FY 2019 VAWA Carroll County State's Attorney's Office. Ashley Palmer is joining Karen. Good morning.
So, Commissioners, in the same vein as the Sheriff's Award, also on August 23rd of this year, you approved an application in the amount of $55,453 to GOCCP for the position of prosecutor, domestic violence prosecutor. We were awarded the full amount of $55,453. So if you have any questions about the program, Ashley is here to answer. Sir.
I'll move the Board of Commissioners accept the FY 2019 Violence Against Women's Act Grant Award.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Discussion.
Is there a briefing page? Oh, it's a separate.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay. I see. All right. I'm good.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Karen, quick question for you on these two.
Yes.
Since we got the full amount that we asked for, are we asking for enough? Do they give us a limit on what we can ask for?
They do, Commissioner Howard. They cap it at the
Okay.
previous year award amount, and they've been doing that for years now.
Okay.
So this is the maximum that we're allowed to apply for.
Gotcha. Okay. Good.
Okay, move on to request approval to accept a grant award from MEMA, FY 2019 Urban Area Security Initiative. Scott Campbell, Karen Jacoda.
And I'll just say,
Valerie.
Commissioner, I'd also like to mention we're pleased to have Valerie Hawkins here. She is the acting emergency manager for Carroll County.
All right.
Did you already shake it out?
We did.
Okay.
I grabbed the desk. I don't know if anybody
All right.
noticed that, but I
I
grabbed it.
did. Okay. All right.
There's opportunities all day long.
Okay. All right. All right.
So,
Commissioner just dropped behind the desk.
Yeah.
That was next.
You didn't feel the earth shake?
We should all jump under the table when Commissioner Rothschild's here this afternoon and see if he can figure out why.
So good morning again, Commissioners. Commissioners, this is the Urban Area Security Initiative Grant Award. This is really application and award at the same time. We don't go before you. Previously, regarding the application. And this year, we were awarded a total of $270,896. And you can see on your briefing paper the different categories that breaks out into. But if you have any specific questions, I'm sure Scott and Valerie can address those.
The amount for the mobile command vehicles, Scott or Valerie, either one of you, how do we get the amounts that we get based on the category?
That's a perfect
And
question.
the reason I ask is because I know when I was in the Sheriff's Department mobile command last time, they had a computer issue, and they were going to obviously get it fixed. They had to. But do we get enough money in that category, and how do we get those breakdowns, I guess.
The determination for each of those project amounts is determined at the regional level by the executives of the urban areas work group. So
Okay.
basically, all of the emergency managers serve as the executives of that body. So all of those projects, the committee that handles the mass mobile communication and command vehicles at the regional level submits a request on behalf of that committee. Then the executive council decides how much money is going to be determined or distributed to each jurisdiction for mobile command and communications vehicles, and that's how that comes to be. That what it actually pays for, this 16.5, is the satellite service and the support for both vehicles for the communications piece of it, so that we have satellite communications in addition to the modems that we have on there. So we have cellular and satellite communication. So that's basically what that $16,500 is intended to
Okay.
fund.
So when there's a repair that's needed, does that money come from somewhere else, or?
That money ends up coming to be, what we do is we take advantage of the opportunity to get a discount. We pay the bill as early as we possibly can. That provides us with a 10% discount on that invoice. The vendor allows us, offers that opportunity. We take advantage of it. And then that difference is what ordinarily funds things like, computer repairs or
Okay.
supplies for those vehicles.
Good, okay.
Any other questions?
Hazmat response, Scott, that's still going all right? I mean, I know we have it housed at the New Windsor Station.
They're doing a fabulous job.
Okay.
I mean, with all due respect, New Windsor
Well, I
does a
know,
fabulous job with it.
Demand's not there, but it sure is good to have when the
Absolutely.
need
When they're needed,
arises,
they do a
'cause,
top-notch job.
We don't have, hazmat response every week, but when we do need it.
You're right, Commissioner, we're fortunate we don't, but when they're needed, they do a phenomenal job.
Okay, very good. I'll make the motion, we accept the 2018 UASI grant, Security Initiative Grant Award.
Second.
Is that a second?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
It's kind of slow, but okay. Now we're moving to a request approval to accept grant award from MEMA FY 2019 Emergency Management Performance Public Safety with the same cast of characters.
Yes, Commissioners, this is the same vein as the UASI grant award that you just accepted. We don't come before you previously regarding the application, so this is an application/award. And this year, we were awarded a total of $217,486. And again, if you have any specific program questions.
We were awarded that much? Or that's the total thing?
108.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. We were awarded $108,743, and this is a dollar-for-dollar match.
Right, okay.
So the total project is $217,486. Thanks, Commissioner.
Sure.
Mr. President, I'll move that we accept the 2018 Emergency Management Performance Grant Award.
Second.
I like the urban area security match better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Request approval to accept grant award from MEMA to 2018 State Homeland Security Program. And again, we're all here.
Right. So Commissioner, exactly like the last two, you haven't seen an application previously on this. It's considered an application/award for the State Homeland Security Program grant. And this year we were awarded $83,102.96, and no county match is required for that. So any specific questions?
So it kind of bounces at the last one.
Yeah, a little.
So there you go.
Why $9,000 less? Just not enough
Actually,
money in the chest, or what?
Commissioner, there are two specific reasons, and once again, Valerie has the exact reason why that reduction.
Yeah, the other one was whatever. It was a couple $100, but 9,000 is,
Part of that is reflective of the fact that there was not as much at the state level awarded altogether. So
Okay.
obviously, when it's divvied up between all of the jurisdictions in the state, everybody gets a little bit less.
Right.
The other portion of it is a statewide incident management team program. Part of the money that would ordinarily have been directly funded to Carroll County is going to be utilized for that statewide program. So all of the jurisdictions are basically contributing a portion of the SHISGIP, is what we term it, the State Homeland Security Program funds. to get that team off the ground, which will, in the long run, benefit all of our jurisdictions, so that we all have that available for situations such as Ellicott City and the flooding and
Right.
Where incident management teams are brought in. We wouldn't have to bring one in from another jurisdiction or another state. We would be able to have one here in the state.
Yeah, it's a little concerning that we hear that the state has a little less to offer to the jurisdictions. I hope that isn't a continued pattern. So, okay. All right, I'll make the motion. We accept the 2018 State Homeland Security Program Grant Award.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think that's it for you three. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Moving on to the bond sale award resolution with Rob Burke, and Rob will introduce everyone else here. That's all right, Rob. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Joined this morning with Mr. Bill Henn of our bond counsel firm McKinnon, Shelton and Henn. Mr. Henn is distributing
thank you.
Your copy of the resolution that we've prepared, and we'll go over in a few minutes. Also joined by Mr. Joe Mason and also Ms. Jennifer Dirksen of Davenport and Company, financial advisors to the county. So as you're aware, we've conducted this morning the online sale of our bond sale for the that we've been planning and working toward. That was at 10:30 this morning, and we'll share the results of that. But before we do that, I did catch a bit of the Positively Carol in the board's discussion, but I wanted to let Mr. Joe Mason also be able to address the board upon our recent good news with credit ratings. So I'll start there.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Well, congratulations are in order. You've all collectively, and I do mean collectively, it's been a real team effort, been working towards getting the highest possible ratings from all three credit rating agencies, and with a great presentation was put together this last go-round. I think it really resonated with all the rating agencies, but with Moody's in particular, and pleased to report that you now have AAA ratings all across the board. So that's resulted in a fine result in the sale, which Mr. Burke will go over, but congratulations, deep congratulations to everyone involved.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's Commissioner.
Thanks for your help as well.
Very welcome. It's indeed our pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate all the efforts. I mean, we said it, and if, want to make sure that everybody knows that. But you two led the charge, and we certainly do appreciate your efforts as well.
Thank you.
From the professionalism to the barbecue, thank you very much.
So obviously, congratulations to the board as well, and being able to make that public now. The AAA ratings were part of our advertisement for sale, and as we headed into the sale this morning, our bidders had the opportunity to see and use that most current information as they look to bid on our bond sale. So we conducted our bond sale, $25 million. We did receive 9 bids, which is good competition and glad to see. And pleased to report a low bidder by the financial firm FTN Financial Capital Markets out of New York. True interest cost, which is the method used to determine lowest bidder, of 3.237993, so a little under 3.24, sorry. And so I'll let Joe give that some context. There's some ways that we monitor that, and markets, interest rates have been moving up over the last number of months, so that was anticipated, and feel like that's a good result. Thoughts?
Absolutely a good result. And the way you know it's a good result is you got 9 total bids, and the spread between the bids was very narrow, meaning the cover bid, as we call it, the second in line, was only a basis point or so off. So you definitely got the market. The market rates have been moving up for several months, as Mr. Burke said. And the 10-year Treasury, which is a pretty good barometer of the municipal market, is up a little bit today. So you're selling into a little bit of a weaker market. Your rate was very much in line with recent bond sales that we've done in terms of its level trading to an industry benchmark that we call the MMD yield that comes out on a daily basis, and you traded like a triple A. So congratulations again.
What were the rates 1 year ago? Bob, do you remember?
Well, we did not do a bond sale last year, so I don't have quite as current data. 2 years ago in the
2.6.
Yeah, 2.6 range.
Both in 15 and 16, you were almost right on top of each other. And they were the 2.6.
A little more than 0.5% up from 2 years ago.
0.5%, yeah.
Yeah. So.
When you said weaker market, weaker from what perspective? When you say we're selling in a weaker
Just
market.
Treasury rates are up slightly today. That's all.
Yeah, the bidders, they are watching the markets and put in their bids really within the last minute before our sale ends. So,
so T-bill rates are up.
Slightly.
Just before I came down, I saw the 10-year at about 3.18. So, with that, I will turn over to Mr. Henn. He will walk you through the proposed resolution to award the county's bond sale to FTN Financial.
Commissioners, I'm happy to be here and to share in the enjoyment of your successful sale. We have prepared a bond sale approval resolution in customary form. The bond sale was conducted this morning, as Mr. Burke said. It was conducted in accordance with your authorizing resolution, which you adopted on September 27th. It was a public sale, as Mr. Burke indicated. We had 9 bidders. The bidders and their bid rates are reflected in the resolution. The identity of the winning bidder and the rate bid by the winning bidder is also reflected. And finally, on the last schedule, the interest rates that were in the bid of the winning bidder are set forth, and those will be the interest rates on the county's bonds if the county commissioners adopt this award sale resolution. So at this point, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. Otherwise, the commissioners could approve FTN as the winning bidder pursuant to this bond sale by adopting this resolution that's before you.
Any questions?
Mr. President, I'll move that we adopt the bond sale award resolution as presented by our bond counsel.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to move on to approval and adoption of minutes.
Hang on 1 second, just a technicality on that resolution.
Sure.
I don't think the resolution itself specifically references FTN, it's an attachment. So I think that resolution probably needs to say we're going to
So
award.
it should be on Exhibit B.
Yeah, but it doesn't say we're awarding to
Yeah, it
FTN.
does.
Does it?
B1, FTN Financial Capital Markets.
Where?
Page B1.
B1.
Oh, page B1. Oh, okay, so successful bidder there. Okay, very good. Okay. I missed that. I missed the B1. I was looking at the first 3 pages. Thank you.
All right, adoption of minutes, Thursday, September 20th, 10 a.m.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. That's the only one we have. Is everybody ready?
Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Abstain.
so it's 4 and 1 abstention. Move on to, what are we moving on to?
Agendas?
It's not on here. Agendas. Is it? I don't see it. Okay. Agendas.
Later here.
Okay. Tuesday, October 23rd, 6:30 p.m., Carroll County Farm Bureau Annual Banquet. At Pleasant Valley, Commissioners Wance and Weaver. On Wednesday, October 24th, Carroll County Circuit Court Drug Treatment Court graduation at 4:30. Commissioners Frazier and Wance and Weaver. On Thursday, October 25th, we're going to have a bid approval for tree planting for fall of 2018. We're going to have a bid approval for Bennett Surf Bridge number 2 replacement. We're going to have request approval to use term contract for Jefferson Avenue Storm Drain System replacement and improvement project. We're going to have a discussion, possible decision on Chapter 112 pawnbrokers and secondhand dealers. We're going to have a discussion on North Carroll High School auditorium. And we're going to have a CC Visa quarterly update. On continue at 3 o'clock, we'll have the Long-Term Advisory Council meeting. In the Reagan Room at 7 o'clock, there's a speaking engagement with Deer Park Lions Club with Commissioner Weaver. And the Commissioner's report is with Commissioner Frazier.
That WTTR stuff, could one of our staff reach out to them, please? Apparently, it's not when it used to be. And for the 6 people that listened to it, 5 of them couldn't find it. So I don't know when they do it now, and I'm not sure if it's at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. I'm questioning whether or not
I think it's 9, isn't it?
9:10.
it's not on. It's not on at 9 o'clock.
Oh.
There's different programming now. That's why I would like them to check. And if it is on at 8, I'm not sure. Of course, we might be able to take that up with the new board. I'm not even sure why we continue to do it. Who in the world's listening to that address at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning?
Well, I think
Well, every
it also
5th
gets
week,
on
it's really
Facebook,
a lot.
It also gets put on Facebook, so it has alternate distribution.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do our distribution.
Okay, I just, maybe we could change that to, I don't know. Just food for thought, I guess, so.
Denise, can you
I think
put me
I'm
on for that
agreeing with you. It
LTAC
was
meeting?
not for the fact it went on Facebook.
What you doing?
Okay. Maybe we should call it the weekly address
Yeah,
instead of
about every 6
WTTR or
months,
something.
Somebody will say, I heard
Yeah,
you-
that's a good
I heard
idea.
you- I heard your radio address.
Yeah, I know.
Keep up the good work.
Okay.
You've heard that? Okay. Moving on, Thursday, November 1st at 8 a.m., Carroll County Ag Breakfast Meeting with Commissioner Weaver at Balgers. We have solid waste planning update. We're going to have a bid approval for CCPN Consulting and Technical Services, bid approval for CCPN Project Management and Network Operations Management Services. We have a bid approval for network switch and router annual support renewal. We have a request approval for allocation on opioid funding. We have 11 o'clock, food.
Yeah, that.
Food check grand opening ribbon cutting ceremony, Commissioners Wance and Weaver.
Yeah, we may have to.
I was gonna say this would be difficult.
We'll have to see. I know. I had committed to that a while ago, and Brooke, the young lady who's cutting that ribbon is a very dear friend of mine. So I told her that I would attempt to be there. So I'm just going to scoot out if we're not done, just to let everybody know.
I think she just should bring food up here.
Well,
We could try it out.
So that's why the time there. I just want to
So
make
tell
sure.
her to cut it at 12, we'll all come over for food.
Well, I mean, maybe I can talk her now. I think the chamber's involved with the timing on it too, but I could maybe
Chamber's so
suggest that.
flexible.
I mean, she could talk. Knowing her,
Well, they
she
could let you make opening remarks, and they won't cut anything before 12. So then we can come over after that.
Did I? Whatever I said this morning applies. Okay, it's getting ever so closer.
I know.
Moving on. We're going to go to bid approval for Miller Station Road culvert repairs. We have a bid approval for purchase of 2 Kohler generators and automatic transfer switches. We have a briefing on Environmental Advisory Council at 6:30 that evening at Carroll County Recreation and Parks. Volunteer awards at Carroll County Arts Center, Commissioners Frazier and Wance. It's on Friday, November 2nd. We have a retirement party for Lynn Wheeler at the library headquarters, Commissioners Frazier, Wance, and Howard. At 1 o'clock Saturday, November 3rd, Eagle Scout Court of Honor ceremony in Lineborough, Commissioner Wance. And Sunday, the weekly report was Commissioner Rothschild. Made the change right there for you.
All right. Mr.
Do you have anything else for open to admin?
I have something.
Really?
So two things. One thing I forgot to mention earlier. The health department, they were putting up those signs, various opioid signs around the county. The first one is up, or about to be up at the health department. They want to do an unveiling on October 29th. And you get your choice of...
What day of the week is that?
That's a
Monday?
Monday.
What do these signs say?
They're the ones you chose. The ones you chose. I forget exactly, but they're good.
Where are they going?
This one is at the health department, and you get your choice at 11 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. if you can attend.
What day is this again?
Till Monday.
I thought you said Monday,
The
yeah.
29th.
I could probably do 8:30, but not till 11.
Right, so it's your choice.
I could do 11, not 8:30, I'm just kidding. Monday, I can't make it.
I can do 8:30 if that's, yeah. I'd rather do early in the
Okay.
morning, because 11's kind of the middle of the day, and for those of us that do have other things,
Okay. I'll say 8:30 a.m. on the 29th. It's good. Okay.
Could you make sure that's on the calendars, please, Denise, or have our...
It will be added. Yeah.
Okay.
This is new. This came in yesterday.
Okay.
So recently, you can take one precedent. Probably typically here. Well, recently, a company and a solar company from out Union Bridge and the town of Union Bridge asked to meet with us concerning the possibility of offering a payment in lieu of taxes program to them. Just a little background that I'm giving you here. I'm not asking really for any kind of decision today, just a thought about them. I was curious because the name to me, payment in lieu of taxes, means they're giving us something and instead of taxes. And I was right. This started with the federal government back in 1976. Because as we all know, the federal government owns lots of property, especially out in the Midwest and West. And so that can be quite the budget, have quite the budget impact on a local government's revenue, as property taxes are the largest source of almost all local government's revenue. And so the federal government started a program back, as I say, in '76 to actually pay jurisdictions, even though they're not a taxable entity, can pay them in lieu of actually being taxed. It's been expanded over the years. Some states pay local jurisdictions for large state-owned properties in their jurisdiction. Also, there are some local jurisdictions who have actually gone to the extent of asking and coordinating or entering into agreements with nonprofits with regard to payment of some monies to the local jurisdiction in lieu of taxes. And the final kind of way they're used is the way that we're being asked to consider today, or not today, but now, which is basically that the facility create a public benefit, and that the local jurisdiction agree that it is a public benefit, and therefore they will forego some portion of their taxes. Carroll County has entered into one pilot previously, years ago. I'm not exactly sure how many, but many more than 8 or 10, for a housing project here not far in the Westminster area that was determined at the time, I believe, to be a public benefit because it helped low-income residents obtain housing. So as I said, we've been approached by a solar contractor which has purchased and now owns property in the Union Bridge area. The site's partly in the county and partly in Union Bridge. The county zoning is industrial, but the land is being used and assessed as agricultural at the moment, as I understand. Current assessment does not honestly generate much property, but as an industrial site, it could be very valuable if valuable to us revenue-wise, if developed in a traditional industrial manner. So I've sort of posed 3 questions that I'd like you to think about over the next week or so I think there are three things that as the elected body need to sort of consider. Is there an interest, first and foremost, is there even an interest in the Board of Commissioners offering a pilot tax incentive? If you're interested in it, then if so, is power generation industry the industry that the board would like to promote in Carroll County with such an incentive? And then finally, if you're interested and this is something you want to move forward with, then we get to the actual meat of whatever the agreement would be with a particular, this particular project.
So, clarify something for us.
I'll try.
The land is currently being used and assessed as agricultural.
Yeah.
If a commercial grade, I assume for profit, solar facility goes on that property, doesn't that become a full-blown industrial use, and wouldn't it be taxed as industrial since it's there?
My understanding is the solar panels are taxed only as personal property, business personal property, and the land is taxed at a commercial value. But there's a large difference between putting like a Fuchs out there where you're taxing a $40 million building and the revenue that we generate from that versus the personal property tax of the solar panels, which start off high and go down low.
So what you're saying is it might be considered, even if we're considered industrial use at that point, there's no improvements that would count into the assessment other than the land value itself.
Basically, yeah. And also, as economic development mentioned to me yesterday, they don't generate employees either. So there are a couple, they install it and then so unlike the traditional, that's why I say you have to think of possibly the lost opportunity cost in allowing, promoting this in the industrial zone.
So, for me, one of the questions I want to know is what are the numbers?
Well, I think you first need to decide if this is something the county, if this is I know it's not a traditional tax credit, but if you're interested, it is in effect, the way it's being used, it is in fact tax incentive to a particular industry.
The thing that bothers me about this is it seems like it's starting to take on a character remarkably similar to a bribe. Let us do what we want, we'll pay you money, piece of the action.
Yep.
They're going to give us a fee. They're going to pay us a fee, right? If we let them build solar, they're going to pay us a fee.
The suggestion is that we would forego personal property tax.
Oh.
In the long run, you will actually have less money.
They're asking for a tax credit.
Oh, because it's titled payment in lieu of taxes.
I know. That's why I gave you this history, because to me the title and the operation as they're trying to, and this is not
kind
just
of like eviction assistance.
As it has evolved, when it was started by the federal government paying local jurisdictions because they weren't paying taxes. We're not saying we're taxable, because they didn't want to say, oh, we're taxable. So we're saying we're not taxable, but we recognize that we cost you money, and so we'll give you some money. And it's evolved over the years to basically be, and I was corrected by one of my colleagues, it's not a tax credit, but it basically is. What other jurisdictions have done, like Dorchester County, which is one of our poorer counties, unfortunately, in the state, has entered into several of these. And they sort of see it as a bird in the hand because they don't have a lot of industry. They only have 30,000 residents. I mean, the residential base is the size of Westminster, or maybe even smaller. And so they see it as a sort of something better than nothing. I think Carroll County is in a different position, and I just want you to think about it fully. We do not. Economic development doesn't give tax incentives to businesses to attract them to come here.
Yeah, I mean, is there a time frame for this?
So they've been working with Union Bridge for quite some period of time, and they only just met with us, about 2 weeks ago, I guess, or something like that, 3 weeks ago.
I mean,
And they just, presented us with some more information indicating that they're, sort of serious about asking us.
Yeah, I would
I'm here to have your input.
would suggest that if you guys are serious about it at all, you may just hold this over for the next board. I mean, it's not time sensitive. We're going to get part way through it. I don't have a particular appetite for it, Commissioner Archer. I don't know if you do either, but if you want to give it consideration, we're getting halfway into a conversation. If there's not a time sensitive nature to it, you're talking about 6 weeks before.
Well, we could decide whether we actually even want to entertain this because.
Well, I was just saying, if you don't,
Yeah.
I don't think you go forward, but
Right.
if you do, I would say that would probably be.
I mean, from my understanding of this, we would actually lose money as a county if we went forward with this.
Okay.
If we want to do some other way to try to help this company out that wouldn't cost us money in the long run. I mean, I'd be interested in looking at that, but we don't give tax incentives, and this is not what this is, but we don't give tax incentives to businesses to come in here. We do other things to help the businesses out. If we want to do something else to help this particular business out here, we can look at that. But, I mean, this is just discussion. We're not making a decision today, but
Right, and
I'm not interested in us actually losing money on property that we could actually be making more money on if this didn't go there.
Okay. All right.
So,
I would like to see the numbers on it.
well,
You know, at
and
least some kind of
certainly I'm not
numbers.
preventing from doing that, but mostly I want you to think about it over the next week, and we'll put this on the agenda for next week.
Right.
Mostly I want you to think about the concept and whether you're even interested in
Yeah,
the
that's-
concept.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the numbers of this particular, what you have to think about is if you do it here, you're going to be
It opens up the door,
to do it everywhere.
exactly, which is the
And-
problem.
Right.
I'm
Well, who's
having with it.
pushing for us to do it? I mean.
This company and Union Bridge is interested in it as well.
Commissioner Wance can affirm this. We've had a lot of problems with the solar companies at Mako trying to use their clout to usurp local autonomy. And I hate to lean into a punch. So
Yeah,
I share your concerns, Steve.
I mean, I'd nip it in the bud now. I mean, if you want to put it on the agenda, fine, but,
Well,
it sounds
is
as if-
anyone interested in having it put on?
Sounds
I'm
as
not
if we got
interested in
4
moving forward
nips.
with this.
I'm not
You're
interested
saying
in
no?
I'm not interested in it,
Well, we don't
only
even
for
need
the
to-
reason, and I agree with you, Dennis, I don't want to lose money on this.
Right.
But my problem is, if we do it for them, then who's next? And it's going to open up that door for everybody else to say, we did it for them, and I'm not interested in doing that.
Yeah. That's
Especially with the economic climate that we're in right now. I'm just not.
So that was my second question, is the solar industry the one you want to? Okay, so I'll relay our non-interest in pursuing this further to
All right.
them. I expect you might hear from the town of Union Bridge,
Okay.
and we can always revisit it later if you'd like.
Well, they should probably look closely at this as well,
Yeah.
because, well, I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you for your time,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Mr.
Hey,
President, I'll make a
Go
motion
ahead.
that we close for legal advice.
Second.
All those in favor?
And then I'll make a motion that we recess to 1:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Recessed.